Hello, I am Amanda Warfield. Welcome to my channel. I go live every single Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. I do this every week, every time. I cannot say Pacific in that sentence to save my life. I go live every single Monday evening to help course creators simplify their marketing so they can make a larger impact in less time. And today I am so excited to have my friend Dolly joining me. Dolly DeLong is a launch planner and integrator. So not only does she help you with the strategy behind your launch, but she also does the work, which is just so unique to what she does because a lot of people are kind of either or. And so with Dolly, you get both in one go, and I'm thrilled because today we're going to talk all about the power of a pre-launch. But Dolly, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here, Amanda. I love learning from you. I love working with you, and I'm really excited to talk with you about a pre-launch. Okay, so a little bit about myself. My name is Dolly DeLong. I am based in the best way to describe it is in Middle Tennessee, near Nashville, Tennessee. I have two sides to my business. I am a service-based business owner. I serve as a family photographer. And so that is one side of my business. And the other side of my business is what is launch, being a launch integrator, launch planner. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Personally, I am married to a sweet man named Ty, and we have two wild boys. And I was just sharing with Amanda, you all might hear them like in the background running through the house because it is the witching hour where we live. So I'm sorry, not sorry. That's just the way it is. And recently I've become a dog mom. I'm still a cat mom. Like I still am
Yes,
a cat
yes.
lover. Yes, I don't really talk about it that much because I'm like, who am I? This is a new identity. But we adopted a dog in the summer, and it's mostly for my boys so that they can grow up with the dog. And she is just attached to me and not to anybody else. And I'm just like, I don't know why you like me. Like, I like cats. So I am recently a dog mom as well.
I have no idea how I didn't know this.
Yes, I mean, I only like her. I don't really like dogs that much. I just like her because yeah, she doesn't bark and she doesn't do any of the. I'm sure some dog person's gonna come at me, but I'm just like, oh, I don't like it when dogs bark and lick and like all that stuff. But she doesn't do any of that, and so I'm just like, yeah, she's a chill dog.
That's incredible. Yeah, I had no idea. That's so
Yes,
fun. You
yeah.
got her this summer?
Yes, I'm on. Oh, also, I'm obsessed with Harry Potter. We got her on Harry Potter's birthday,
That's
ironically.
amazing.
So, yeah.
That's it. I can't believe I didn't know that. I'm just like, I'm so shocked, guys, because Dolly and I have been working together with a joint client all
Yes.
summer. And
I
somehow I had
didn't
no idea of this.
talk about it at all.
I'm like,
It's not because I'm embarrassed. I've just been like, okay, well, this dog is for the boys. Like, this isn't my dog, and she is my dog now. She will not leave me alone. And I have the baby gate up so that she won't be in here with me. But yes, she's apparently she's my dog. So
so funny. I
yes,
feel like animals, they always like they choose the person
yes,
that probably is least excited about them.
yes. I'm just like, you are Jack's dog. And she's like, no, I am your dog. And she has this pathetic looking face that's so sweet. And I'm just like, oh, I feel sorry for you. Okay, you can follow me around. And yeah, I'm a dog mom now.
I love it. Well, congrats. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you.
Um, okay, so like I mentioned, Dolly and I have been working together with a client for their launch. They just had their launch. Gosh, has it been 2 weeks already? That seems
It's
crazy.
been, yeah, it's been like 3 weeks.
It's been three?
Yeah.
Wow. This
Yeah.
last month has flown.
Yes, it has.
I don't know where September went, but we've been working together. Dolly is the launch strategist and the integrator. She does all the things, makes all of the details happen. And I have been helping with the copywriting. And Dolly and I have been friends for years now at this point, but I knew that I wanted to bring her on here to the channel because it's kind of a whole new ball game with new content, and I wanted to make sure that she got to share with you guys all about the power of pre-launch strategy because
Yeah.
it's such an important part of a course launch, right? So, can you kind of talk to us about what a pre-launch strategy is and how does it differ from the launch itself?
Yeah, definitely. So I like to think of launching in four different phases, sometimes even five different
Mm,
phases. But the four main phases I like to look at launching is okay, the pre planning of the launch, the pre-launch, the actual launch itself, and then the post-launch. Because when people are looking at launching, especially small business owners who, like they hear, oh, I launched my digital course and I sold $6 million in like a day, or like I had a 7-figure, 8-figure launch. Okay, like we just get so focused in on the launch period, which is technically the cart open phase. And I like to focus on the first two phases, which is like planning of the launch and then the execution of the launch, which is the pre-launch. And then the actual launch period goes by smoothly. So I like to look at launching in four different phases and have a really realistic view of it.
mm,
And then I like using this analogy because it helps me get into like to understand how to think more forward, be more forward facing or forward focused. I can't talk either. So so I'll use my example since I'm a mom. I go to Costco a lot with my boys, not just to kill time, but also we buy in bulk. Like everything has to be in bulk in our house because we go through things really fast. So, anyways, I take my boys to Costco in July of this year. I took them there, and instead of having like normal summer things out, Costco had Halloween things out, and it was July. And so July, August, September, it's like nearly they're forcing the customer to think ahead 3, 4 months. And so I like to remind small business owners if the big box companies are helping you kind of like think ahead by 3 to 4 months, it is okay if we as small business owners help plant a seed for our own clients, for our own I don't customers, viewers, whoever our ideal client is. I like to encourage my clients, hey, help them to start thinking ahead what the next quarter could look like with working with you or in the next 6 months, because we tend to be so focused on what's happening now, what is like a shiny object that's happening right now that I need to do. And we forget that launching is also promoting yourself. So, like marketing yourself. And so, having the mindset of merging promoting yourself with launching, I like to also like describe pre-launching as marketing yourself in one very specific way.
mm. Yeah. What would you say to someone who's like, that's great, but it's easy for the big box stores to make you think ahead when it's so visual? Like, you walk in and the Halloween stuff is like, bam, you've got orange and black, and you've got, the creepy things that your boys love.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Uh, but what are the, like, I want to say statues, but that's not right. The animatronics, that's where
Yeah.
the creepy animatronic, like, it's so visual in your face that it kind of triggers that. But what about for course creators who, maybe their course isn't triggered to any specific time period? How do you use pre-launch to kind of force them to think ahead to the launch that's upcoming without saying the launch is coming?
Yeah. So are we talking then about because I look at it in two ways. I'm going to answer the question first of all for the course creator who does have the course already made and they're wanting to learn how to market, like to market it. Is that how we should go with this? Or should I answer it in they don't have it yet created and they want to launch it?
Can you share both?
Okay.
Curious. I wonder if anyone who's watching live, let me know in the chat which category you fall into, and maybe we can kind of skew one way or the other. But I'm curious to hear your answer for both.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the first part. If you already have something made, hopefully you have done your due diligence and you've done market research to know like this is something that my clients want, that they need, that they've asked me for, and it's not something you've just created based off of, oh, I feel like this would be a good thing to have. I've been there. I want everybody to know I've created things like that where I'm like, oh, people need this, and then it launches to no one. It launches to crickets. So let's say you do have something and you're like, okay, I need to create some sort of launch plan. How do I do this? I would say insert, like, this is where the marketing comes in. I would say insert it into your marketing plan. Let's say we're sitting right now live at the end of September, and you want to launch this course that you've created or this product or digital product, whatever you've created in December. Okay, look at the next 3 months. How can you infuse you this like pre-launch to your digital product into your content? So this is where um intentional content marketing comes in. This is also where intentional list building comes in. Now, I will argue all business owners should be like building out their email lists year round. And they need, like, you should be attracting your ideal clients in a very strategic way, like with specific lead gen, like lead magnets or whatever. But I do want to encourage the business owner to like reshift your thinking. Sorry, like I'm very I heard my voice come in, so I just like got distracted for a second. So let me pause my thoughts. I I really believe and see the importance of infusing your content into your marketing in the next X amount of weeks to talk about the different facets of your product without necessarily selling it. So you're talking about the FAQs, you're talking about who it's for, you're talking about just like the objections or in your long form content. And then you're also focusing in on how do I build out my email list that on the back end promotes this product. How do I, and then you're also infusing your social media marketing into this as well. I know this is so layered, and I do this every single day with my clients, and I have to realize that you might have heard Jack. He's saying hi to everyone. Uh, but we can like unpack that even more, but is what I'm saying even a coherent sentence? Like, does that make sense? Because I feel like I'm so in my head with this that sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to like take 10,000 steps back and explain it better.
Yeah, okay, so let me see if I can summarize.
Okay.
So you're saying that it essentially comes down to talking through the messaging of the course, objections, FAQs, benefits, features, all of that, without necessarily saying that that you're talking about the course. Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yes, like using your like leaning into your here. My thought is my brain is finally caught up with the question. Sorry about that, Amanda. Okay, so essentially I always ask my clients, "Hey, what long form content marketing are you leaning into?" Um is it YouTube? Is it blogging? Is it podcasting? If it's not one of those, like, is it email marketing? Hopefully, it's always going to be email marketing. Which one of those four do you do consistently? Then let's weave in some sort of education that is a facet. Like it's like a little seed, like you're like planting seeds along the way, because I know for a listener or a viewer right now, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, later on you're like, how do I talk about my course like over the course of, let's say it's like 6 weeks or 7 weeks? And I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over and over and over again. Yes, it feels like a repetition, but leading up to the actual cart open, you want to answer a lot of objections a person would have before you actually open the cart, because your job is not only to plant seeds of intrigue and anticipation, like anticipation marketing and showcasing transformational stories of past clients who have used this digital product or group program, whatever you're trying to sell. You don't want to answer objections or FAQ type of questions during cart open week. You want to sell during cart open week, and leading up to cart open week, you want to do a lots of anticipation type of content marketing and infuse that in your long form content, in your email marketing, and also infuse it into your social media. And
Mm.
that weaves in like this beautiful pre-launch strategy.
Yeah. Okay, so then what would you say to someone who either hasn't even started creating their course or has started creating it, but is in that early phase of
Okay.
creating it, maybe?
I would say to this owner, hey, like, have you actually done the market research? I know it always comes back to market research for me. Like, have you actually done like either one-to-one interviews with your past buyers or your audience, your clients, and do they want this? What are their words? What do they actually want you to create? I would say spend a large, not a large portion, but maybe like at least people don't like me saying this, but like at least a month of really digging into what your ideal client would want from you, because that will therefore impact the way you create your course, your copying, your not copy, your copy, your
Mhm.
messaging, and that might even impact the way you decide to show up on long form content. Because let's say that this is a good case in point. You're like a good example of this, Amanda, because you have both a podcast and a YouTube channel, and your clients might be better learners viewing versus listening and vice versa. So let's say this business owner has an idea, they haven't fleshed it out yet. I would say, and then after a month of like interviews and like one-to-one calls with those ideal clients, they have a better idea of like what product they're going to make. And then based off of those interviews, they know how they're going to educate their ideal audience, because their ideal audience may learn best in audio form. So they're like, okay, I'm going to lean into my podcast and create content that naturally leads to the open cart week. But I am not going to like every week going to say, hey, I'm selling this in 3 or 4 months. Instead, I'm just going to create content that answers like I, the best way I can describe it is like anticipation marketing, like getting people more excited about that topic without necessarily telling them, hey, I'm selling this product in 4 months.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned one-to-one calls and interviews. I'm
Mhm.
curious, what are some of your favorite ways to do market research? How do you even begin with market research? What are you looking for? But
Yeah.
then also, for someone who doesn't have an audience, so they're like, I don't have much of an audience yet. What are your suggestions for market research?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk to the person who has had sold something or has sold something and they want to relaunch it again. I would say reach out to the people who bought that product from you and set up like a 30-minute Zoom call with them and send them like I don't know, like a $10 gift card to Amazon or to start like whatever. It's up
Mhm.
to you. But ask them very specific questions, because you need to like get their voice. Like their voice of customer is like key, because what you think they're searching for, like the what you think that they're searching for the solution, they might be typing in something totally different. They might be they might give you benefit statements that you've never thought was a transformational statement, if that makes sense. And that will therefore impact your sales page and your landing page copy and your sales sequence and your like all the copy throughout your entire pre-launch. So that's why I'm a huge proponent of like really digging into what's working for you. Like, if you want to relaunch that again, that's great. Let's interview some people and find out how you can like sweeten up that copy, because you're getting their voice. And
Mhm.
if they're your ideal client, then you want more people like that to read that sales page and to read your emails and to consume your podcasts or your YouTube or blogs or even your email newsletter. Okay, if you don't have an audience and you're starting from scratch, this is not like an answer that is like really popular, but I think you're sitting at a great place, my friend. Like, you get to decide like what you want to create, who you want to serve, and then you can iterate from there. Like, it's good. It might be a longer process for you depending upon like what you're really passionate about, what you want to teach. And like sometimes you feel like you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. I mean, we've all been there, but if you don't have an audience, I say again, I'm looking at this as a positive thing. Like, you can determine what you want to create, who you want to serve, what your messaging is going to be, and then you can launch that. And I would say try to do everything in an organic way. Don't put money towards anything unless you know for sure it converts. That's another conversation for another day. But everything I'm sharing is all coming from an organic marketing perspective. But um, I say, if once you have created something that you like, and for the client who you think you want to serve, you can iterate and like from there after that first launch. Again, I know it's not a very popular. I don't hear a lot of people say that, but that's what I think in my head. I'm like, a person who's starting from scratch, they're at a good spot.
Well, and I also think it's so important because realistically, even if you have an audience, you have to be comfortable with the idea of iterations,
Yes.
reiterating and reiterating and reiterating. The reality is that you're never, almost nobody is going to launch a course and never launch it again, never need to launch it again.
Yes.
The reality is that we look at some of these larger business owners who are realistically, they're business owners, but they're also influencers. They have
Mhm.
these massive followings. They launch a course and make 6 or 7 figures, whatever, right? Um, they could potentially launch a course one time, put it on Evergreen, make money.
Yes.
That's not the reality for 99.9% of us. And
It's
we
really
have
not.
to reiterate, even
Yeah.
if you've got an audience, you've got to get comfortable with the idea of reiterating. You can't just launch a course one time, stick it on Evergreen, and never talk about it again. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah. I also want to say, like, things are changing constantly around us. Like, I'm glad you brought that up, because between like so much has changed between 2020 to 2024. Like, I feel like I'm hearing this conversation constantly, like, oh, like my course did so well and amazing during COVID in 2020. And now I'm like relaunching it. I relaunched it several times. It didn't do as amazing. And now this year is crickets. And like, I'm not like, this isn't a political state, like any, so, like in any way, shape, or form, but like we have to look at what's happening in history. Like, whenever you're about to launch, look at what's happening around you politically. How does the economy look? Like, what you have to look at historical data of like every few years or every I'd like heard a stat like every like 6 to 7 years. Like this is pretty normal. Like this cycle of like there are some years are going to be so abundant and some years are going to be kind of stagnant. And that's pretty normal for the cycle of an online business owner. But for a person who might be either owning a business for the first 5 years, like you're like, wait a minute, like this is actually a very slow year for me, and this is scary, and I am not launching well, or versus somebody who is brand new and like no audience, and they're hearing all these horror stories. Like, I just, I just want everyone to like slow down and just like see where everybody else is, like put a pulse on the data and like and know like you're not alone. Like this has been a very slow year. And
Mhm.
like like I don't know about you, but
Ah, oh yeah. For
yeah.
me, for all of my clients, it's
Yeah.
been a slow year, no matter what, like service, courses, digital,
Yes.
all the way around. Every revenue stream has been slow. And I think, maybe I'm crazy. Um, my prediction is that courses are going to have a resurgence because we are at this place where I think people want to hire out, but the finances aren't there to hire out. So we're having to go back to more DIY options. I've
Yeah.
noticed that I've purchased a lot more courses this year than I have in the last few years when I had more profit and was able to go, okay, let me just hire someone else to do it. Versus this year, it's like, well, I don't have as much profit. I'm gonna have to, and I see it having another resurgence period. I think it's gonna be different than it was before,
Yeah.
uh, where you could just throw up a course about anything and people would buy. Like, I don't think it'll be the same as it was before. I think a lot of us have been burned by so many courses that we're,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot stricter about what we're purchasing. But I do think there's gonna be a resurgence. But I think you're totally right. It's been a slow year. But also, people always want to compare each year post 2020 to 2020. And
That
that
was
year
a
was such an
strange year for
anomaly.
everyone, okay? That was a
It was
strange
such an
year.
anomaly. Everyone was
Yeah.
getting
We were
the
all stuck at home and we were all learning.
checks. What were those checks called?
Oh, is
Stimulus
it
checks.
stimulus? Okay, yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're all getting extra money. Like, of course there was more money to be spent. And they, like you said, we're not getting into politics, but this and that and how that all played out. But of course it was an abundant year. People
Mm-hmm.
were home, they had extra money, they had the ability to start businesses and spend that money in whatever way they wanted to. And now people are struggling, and that's just the
Mm-hmm.
reality. And so yeah, it's one of those things where that's the reality, but it won't always be this way.
Because
And
it changes like every year, every season, every few years is like so different. And yeah, I like this is very normal. Everyone, I've noticed a trend, and I don't know if you've noticed this trend, Amanda, is that people like there are people that I follow that are launching their not services, but are giving it at a lower price point,
Mhm.
like a little slice of their service, kind of like to get a person's foot in the door, and then or like a little slice of their digital product, not the whole thing, but just a little slice, just to sell it. Like, okay, I need to get this income stream going again. How can I get a person's foot in the door to trust me and to know me over time and to build more authority with them over time? And that has been, I mean, I feel like in my inbox, I am getting all of these amazing deals that I would have loved 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. I'm like, wow, very interesting. Like, I'm just like seeing this trend with a lot of business owners, not just service-based, but digital-based business owners, online business owners.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more lower ticket offers
Yes.
offered out there. Um, no matter the stream revenue. And then the service-based ones, it's like, okay, how do you make the money you need to make while taking on more clients, but not overworking yourself? And so it's like, okay, can you cut out this little chunk of here's part of what people need. I can at least help them with this
Yes.
variable price point. So yeah, and I think that speaks so strongly to the innovativeness that you have to have as
Hmm.
an entrepreneur is,
Yeah.
okay, what's been working isn't working. How do I make it work for now?
Yes. And I love that you mentioned that. And I don't even know if this is conversation is going in the direction you want to go, but I am hoping this is encouraging a listener or watcher. But I want to encourage listeners, viewers, that if you are wanting to launch and you have something that you want to relaunch, and if it's not going the way that it originally went, like several seasons ago when you launched it and went like whatever the term is, gangbusters, it was great. I think that's a good term, a positive term. And like it went great. It sold like hotcakes. There we go. It sold like hotcakes, and then you relaunched it again, and you're like, whoa, this is a totally different like feel, like outcome. I wasn't expecting this. Like again, going back to we have to look at the data, we have to see what's going on around us, but also we need to iterate and be innovative. Like we are small business owners. That's the beauty of owning a small business. You can iterate and you can be innovative and um see like try something new with your launch strategy and not do it out of desperation, but do it to see like, will this serve my audience well? And will this also help me out in the long run? And that kind of like, maybe I could be wrong reading this, but something that I'm noticing is more collaborations
Mhm.
with launches. I love collaborations. I love like bundles. I love summits. I love working with other business owners. You know this because I've collaborated with you several times, Amanda. I love it not only because it serves my audience getting to know other business owners, but it also serves me to get in front of other people's audiences. And I feel like the bigger business owners, like, you know, the 7, 8, 9 figure launch business owners, they do this really well. They have like a really good relationship based collaborations like for their launches. And I feel like us small business owners, we are just now starting to understand like, hey, like if we want our launch to go well, like and we want to do it in an organic way, we also need to infuse some sort of collaboration strategy within our launch. Not only like we don't need to just focus in on good content marketing and good social media marketing and good email marketing to grow our list, but hey, like we can't expect the same results when we're like launching to our same list over and over and over again. We need to infuse some sort of collaboration. Again, organic collaboration with people, with business owners who serve the type of audience we want to serve and make sure it's a good fit for them, make sure it's a good fit for us. And so I feel like I've noticed a trend in the last year or so where small business owners are starting to collab more, which I love, but they're starting to infuse it more into their launches, which I really love. And I really strongly suggest leaning into collaborations as a small business owner.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're totally right. I think when we had the heyday of Instagram, it didn't feel as necessary because you could just post on Instagram and people would see it and people would
Yeah.
engage with it. Excuse me. Um, and you were able to put a successful launch out there that, you just did the organic content marketing, your YouTube, blog, podcast, email, social media. You were able to just do that and see a fairly successful launch. Um, but the reality is that social media, it's not the place where you're going to necessarily see results in engagement. Um,
Mhm.
it is more of a place to truly try to be social, and a lot of that happens in the DMs and kind of behind the scenes versus what you're posting. Um, and so those collaborations, like you said, they become more important than ever. Those relationships are more important than ever. And it's so important that we are fostering those relationships. That is something I think for so long, those of us running businesses, we could kind of do it in a bubble and get away with it. And you just can't get away with it anymore. You cannot do
Yeah.
business anymore.
You really can't. And I know like it's frustrating to hear this if you're like a brand new business owner and you're like, okay, great. Like, so you're telling me, okay, I need to find something that I need to build an audience. I need to find something that they need. I need to try to do this organically. I need to lean into content marketing. I need to lean into like my collaborations. I need to get to know people. This is all stressful. Yes, it is stressful. Like if you look at it like if you like you can't like somebody told me this analogy a while back and I was like, that's smart. You can't eat a steak in a bite. And let's say you're vegan. Sorry if you're vegan and you're offended by me saying steak. You can't eat a whole salad in one bite. Like you take like little tiny bites over time and that's how you consume your meal. And so that's how I look at like running a business, running like doing a launch, especially it takes it one bite at a time, one step at a time, figuring out, okay, like what your messaging is, what your plan is, like how you're going to show up with your marketing, how you're going to show up socially. Okay, what relationships should you lean into to collaborate with for this launch? Okay, then when do you want to launch? Okay, it's just like it's like taking one baby step at a time and knowing that also going in knowing, okay, this may not work like last time, but I'm learning this time and I it will be okay and not just depending upon. Another thing I want to remind people, I'm all over the place, Amanda. Another thing I want to remind people is like don't put all your financial eggs in one launch basket. Hopefully are if you this is a big thing. I want to remind people if you have a business, like either you're an online business owner, you should hopefully know your streams of income. Like you should be leaning into that. Hopefully you are not like just depending upon the launch to make or break your like future of your business. I really hope you're not doing that. I really hope as a small business owner, you are still leaning into the streams of income that are working for you and you're launching on the side. And again, like I have a lot of unpopular opinions because I'm very like I'm more like conservative with my launches. I'm like, don't put everything in one basket. I don't know. Like if I just set a hot button topic or whatever, I don't know. Like I
I
just
think that that's the reality.
yeah,
I think if you're someone, and I've shared about this before on the podcast, and I think I even shared it in the book where I talk about the fact that if you need to make money quickly, you need to be service-based business owner, period. If you have more time to run the business on the side and you know you want to be a course creator, you can go straight to the education route, but you have to realize that it's going to take time to build the audience because you need
yeah,
so many more people to sustain that. And I went that route. I knew from the start that I wanted to be, because my background's in education, I love teaching. I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to create courses. And so I went that route, and it took me a long time to create any kind of sustainable income with my business. I mean, I started my business in 2018 and didn't really start seeing traction until 2020. However, if you're like, okay, I just want to start a business, one day I want to be a course creator, I want to do it on the side, like you're saying,
yeah,
or with the service-based stuff, build up because you need one person to pay you for that at a time. Like you need one client at a time. Obviously, people want more, but like one client will pay you a decent amount of income. Um, and I think that's so important. I think we have often this vision that launches are going to be crazy successful. They're going to, make or break our business. And the reality, like you've said, is that you're gonna have to reiterate, you could do everything right and it may
hmm
not go the way you want it to go.
yeah,
And it should be one of many streams of income unless you recognize that it's going to take time to build that audience and build that following for that one course.
yes, yes. You beautifully succinctly put it all together. Because I know I can be very long-winded, Amanda, but yeah, that was very well put. And I realized like I'm also coming from this perspective because I own two sides of a business. I am a service-based business owner. I'm a photographer. So I'm making like money one-on-one with clients. And then at the same time, I'm running an online business for systems, workflow, launching education. So those are two very different streams of income. And you are exactly right. It took me forever to start matching my education with my service-based business owner. Cause like, I was like, oh, I started earning money really fast with photography. This should be easy with the education side because I'm very passionate about this. It took a long time. I'm still building traction. And like, but I have like, oh, this is going to be very different. Like I'm building a different type of business and two different types of audiences.
Well, it's that, but it's also just the numbers, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Services pay more.
Yeah.
So you need less people to say yes to a service to make X amount versus like let's say you've got, we'll just do easy. Your service is $250. You want to make $1,000. You only need four. You
Mm-hmm.
need four people. Your course is $100 and you want to make $1,000. You need 10 people. And then you think about scaling that to six figures and what that looks like and how, the numbers just make this big jump from services you need less versus, and of course, that's not really 100 versus 250 isn't like a realistic look, but easy math. Um, yeah, it's a numbers game. And so much of business and marketing it's all about the numbers. And we think it's all about the luck a lot of times where we're like, oh, I'm just gonna get lucky, or I'm gonna put the content out there. My whole business is gonna change. And it's like, no, that's not realistic. Like, what are the numbers telling you? Numbers should inform your marketing. Numbers should inform your pre-launch. Numbers should inform the next iteration of your launch, right? It's all about what those numbers are telling us.
And also, going alongside like knowing your numbers. Okay, hopefully, did I just lose my whole train of thought? I probably did. This is mom brain, classic mom brain right here, classic Dolly brain. But oh, here it is. Here it is. If you have been hopefully gathering data for your own business, like so knowing I'm a big proponent of every month tracking my income, my revenue, where my money is going, what I'm spending on, how I'm like everything. And over time, you collect that data and year by year by year, you can compare it. So hopefully, like I now know when I'm going to have a big cash influx from photography.
Mhm.
And I now know when the slower months are so I can focus on other areas of my business. So
Mhm.
I'm not constantly panicking every single month like, oh no, like I'm not like I need to make this much amount of money. Like I can look at my data from the past 5 years because I've been doing this, no, for 6 years, for the past 6 years. I know historically, August to November, those are like my abundant months for the service side of my business. And now for launching like my launch like services, I now know whenever I'm launching, like depending upon when I launch, I know how to project better. So yeah, like going back to what you're saying, it all leans back on knowing how to read your data, knowing how to read your numbers, knowing just getting down to the basics. Everybody should listen to Amanda because she's teaching you really good marketing strategies and basic stuff.
So, okay, speaking of numbers,
Yes.
how can a course creator measure the success of their pre-launch efforts? How do they know whether or not it was successful, what they were doing?
Okay, so I'm gonna use our past client as an example because we worked together with a specific client who had an online course and she was serving she knew her messaging was very nailed in, her ideal client was nailed in, so I really appreciated that she knew who she wanted to serve. So what we did with her was for her pre-launch we had her focus in on 2 different lead magnets
Mhm.
to insert into her marketing in different ways for her pre-launch period. So her pre-launch period was 8 weeks. So for 8 weeks, she showed up with very specific content, and her content was YouTube videos because that's already what she's doing. So we told her, you need to lean into what's already working for you, and that's YouTube. So she shows up every week educating about something very specific. And in her case, it's tax education for photographers, super specific. And so we wanted her to show up on YouTube, not just to educate, but also to grow out her email list. So that's one thing we had her do. And we had her infuse like an email list building plan. Like every other video, one video was focused on growing out a specific lead magnet. Another video was focused on growing out the other lead magnet. And then another video was focused on growing out a masterclass that would eventually be her third lead magnet. And that all wove together
Mhm.
to like segment her audience who opted in to her lead magnets to this segmented them to, I don't even know what to say. Like it showed us that they were interested in learning more about tax education for photographers. And so we measured that, like we measured her essentially her email list growth for
Mhm.
8 weeks. And we were seeing, okay, um, are they interested in this? What freebie are they mostly interested in? Like where like her certain freebies were converting better than other ones. And then we also started,
Pause there real quick.
yes, yeah,
Where did this client's numbers start and where did they end for their email list?
yeah. Okay, so these are listeners. This is not exact numbers. Like this is like I rounded down. Okay, so she started at 300 for her specific segment of education. And I just looked at her like segment today before we got on, and it is at 500. So we grew over 200 subscribers for that segment. All
57%. I just did the math.
okay, good. I'm like, I can't do the math
57%.
right now. And that was all organic. I love that. Keeping it real. I
Like, no,
love
I'm
it.
not doing the math in my head. No,
Yeah.
but 67% organic growth in 8 weeks,
Yes.
huge. And so
Yes.
that's one way you can measure the success, though, right? Is you
Yes.
can look at, okay, what was my list growth?
Yes, list growth. And then you're probably like, well, did you just have her like talk about her freebie every day on Instagram? Like, no, like we actually had a specific, okay, on your YouTube channel, like this is how you introduce the freebie. On like we set up mini chats for her. We made sure her blogs that correspond with her YouTube channel also pointed towards her lead magnet. So it just wasn't her slapping up like an Instagram carousel once a day or once a week and just hoping, oh, I hope somebody will like want to opt into my email list. Like we made sure that everywhere she showed up, like her content was not only giving the anticipation of her course, like educating very well, but it was also leading people to her email list. Like we wanted her to grow her email list. So
And for
we,
those,
yeah,
for those
no,
that
go
have
ahead.
seen me talk about a content engine, this is the content engine in
Yeah.
action. You are giving people everything is sending people to this lead magnet or multiple lead magnets, and you're feeding, long form content into the engine and then turning that into an email and then turning that into different social media posts. And that's what we did for this client to help them see the 67% email list growth.
Yeah. And also like one thing I loved that we did for her was we're like, okay, this should not just be like a strategy that will only work for the summer. We want this strategy to work for you year round. So no matter when a person comes, finds your YouTube channel, like, because she does a lot of content about taxes for photographers. And that's something that's so specific that somebody might just search for in March when tax season comes. So we were trying to be really future focused for her. Like, this might not be something somebody like researches in August because honestly, as a photographer, I'm not researching tax stuff. I'm researching how to like set up fall minis. Okay. But I know that as a photographer, I'm going to be searching for like how to file my taxes, like as a solo business owner in March. And so that content, we wanted it to be very evergreen and to work in her favor. So she's not always having, like, if she wants to take a week or so off from like social media and not talk about her lead magnet, like, then her content is working for her like that engine over time. And so we loved that she already had that YouTube channel set up. She already has that blog set up. So we were just leaning into what was working for her. And she has that community that wants to learn. And so it just like it's still growing, like still to this day, even after the launch.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there other ways that we can measure the success of our pre-launch that you can think of off the top of your head?
Oh man. Well, as I was confessing to you before we hit record, Google Analytics. Oh my goodness, I want to love it, but I hate it. Um, but I would say like there are some good like measurement tracking that you can set up. So if you like, especially during the and I have set this up, but when I look at it, I'm like, what does this even mean? I've paid a Google Analytics person to explain it all to me. So I'm going to butcher that and I'm not even going to try to explain it. But I will say that having Google Analytics set up way before you even launch is really essential because that way, when you set up your pre launch, like when you decide, okay, I'm going to pre launch into this course, then you can set up tracking on certain pages from your landing page to a thank you page to a sales page. It could all be tracked and you can see the conversion rates from there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share my screen and share Google Analytics. So because this is something that, again, those numbers informing the marketing, right? Um, okay, let's just do the full month for funsies. Looking at my pages, when you get into the home of Google Analytics, if you click pages and screens, and then you choose the dates that you want to look at, then you can look at a specific page. So let's say, for example, we're looking at the numbers for my content planner that just launched. Of 64 people, that's how many views this page got. You also want to look at how many sales you got. Um, I actually don't have that number off the top of my head, but let's say I've sold, I don't know a number that's going to go into that nicely, 3. So 3 divided by 64 times 100 is 4.68. That's a 4.68 conversion rate on the sales page. And so that's how you'll look at this, guys. If you're looking at your sales page or you're looking at freebie numbers, if you want to
Mhm.
which freebies convert better, okay, let me look at the page for my freebies, see how many people have opted in during this time period, and then divide it out so that you can know what is that percentage, right? And, there are all kinds of different um, averages out there and best practices out there, but the reality is that when you're reiterating your next launch, you want your numbers to be better than they were last time. That's always,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah. I
so
do
that's
want
not
to say this. I think it's really wise to have thank you pages, like confirmation pages set up from even your lead magnets, because that way you can know, okay, how many people are landing on my actual landing page for this lead magnet? How many people have converted from that lead magnet? And using our client as an example, we could see which lead magnet was speaking more to her ideal client. And so that way we could tell her, hey, like maybe you can then create content. Let's say lead magnet number 2 was performing better than lead magnet number 1, and lead magnet number 2 was about like tax categories. I'm just like making this up on the fly. Then that tells us to tell her, hey, create long form content that centers around tax categories, and then you can grow out your lead magnet in deeper ways, in like later on down the line.
Yeah.
Because it also informs what type of content you should be creating in the future.
Well, what you can also do if you want to get really advanced with this. So if you're listening and you're like, I don't have a course yet, don't worry about this. But if you've got a course and you already have it on Evergreen, another thing you can do is you can set up so you've got your two freebies that lead to this course. Instead of a confirmation page or a thank you page, if you take them to a sales page for the course, then you can see which freebie converts best too. And so you can see which one is a more natural lead in to the course itself. And then you can know, okay, I can push this one more and most likely get more sales. Um, but looking at those numbers and going, okay, this many people landed on the upsell page for this freebie, and this many bought from this freebie
Yeah.
versus this many. Anyways, that's a whole lot of math. But again, those numbers, they tell you everything.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
I love it.
I know that we have on Instagram a question. Okay. Launch strategies often include daily emails. Is pre-launch the same, or are we simply more strategic with our weekly emails to better lead up to a launch? I feel like you've covered this, but just so we can make sure that this is answered clearly, go ahead and give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so my thoughts are be very intentional during your pre-launch. Now, this is not the launch week. This is your pre-launch. So, in your weekly newsletters, I'm calling it newsletter. Your newsletter should be educating, of course, like on the topic that you're known for. It should, again, I'm very I don't even know if I am called old school, but I love pointing people towards my long form content in my email. Like because I blog and I podcast. And so I always let them know, hey, I have a new podcast out. Guess what? This podcast is like a pre-launch, like to my launch. Do they know that? No, but I'm educating them on my podcast too. So on my newsletter, I am leading them to my long form content. I'm also segmenting people in my newsletter if they're interested in my upcoming launch. And how I'm doing that is I am a big proponent of a hype event the week before your launch. So a hype event is like that, like it could be a challenge, it could be a private podcast series, it could be heck, it could be a summit, it could be I don't know, a webinar, a master class. So I've already pre-planned, okay, let's say we'll use our client as an example. She had a master class the week before her launch opened. And so every week for her newsletters, she asked her email list. She's like, if you're interested in joining, I'm leading a free masterclass on this date. Sign up here. And so it self-segmented her list to show her who were the warmest leads that were going to be interested in the masterclass that would most likely buy from her from the actual launch. So I would say be very intentional with your newsletters. Make sure that if you do include a hype event that you're self-segmenting, um, so that you can sell to them in a different way during the launch period. And be I mean, if you want to, like you can even like change. I like to visually change my email banners visually to let them know like, hey, doing a series right now and like I'm consistently showing up on the same day at the same time so they know when to expect me. And maybe I'm upping it 2 times a week when I'm getting closer to the launch, but I just have a very specific cadence. And I love consistency. I love having a specific cadence because my audience like knows when to expect to hear from me. And I'm very purposeful with how I lay out my newsletters. And again, I feel like a lot of people might say that, like that's so old school, but I love consistency and I love like that cadence for me.
So you're not increasing how many emails you're sending during the pre-launch, though. That's specifically for
No.
the launch, open cart, close cart.
Yeah, for my launch week, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm letting them know, hey, I'm launching something and I am sending emails up to 2 times a day. And that can be intense for some people, but I mean, I let them know ahead of time.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so if you could give everyone one action step from after listening to this, what would it be?
Don't don't be overwhelmed. I know that's like easier. So don't be overwhelmed. Really, like if you want to launch something, I would say like work on, oh man, it's like three pieces of advice, and you're like, I just want one, you long-winded person. Dolly, you are so long-winded, but I would say like really hone in on your messaging of of the product that you want to sell. Like make sure you know who it's for, make sure you know the transformation, and make sure that it's something that people actually want and not what you think that they want. So the messaging is so important. And then the second thing is if you truly want to, I don't want to say successful. If you want to, because every like success is different for everyone. But if you want to feel like you've done everything you possibly can for your launch, then allow yourself a good period of time to plan it out and then to prime your audience and then to have like the different phases for yourself. Now, I'm not saying like you need to go all Amy Porterfield your first launch. Like, no, but at least have a good priming period. Because I have to share this. Even if you don't launch successfully the first time, the fact that you have put in so much effort leading up as a pre-launch period, the stacks are in your favor. You have built up so much content and you are establishing yourself as like that go-to expert. And even if it didn't convert well in your eyes, like you still should keep up that momentum even after your cart open and can still continue to show up. And then try to launch again. And you will be pleasantly surprised because when you stack up all of that content, it really does go well in your favor.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it, especially because we're not just focusing on social media, it works
Yeah.
for you for
Yes.
years to come. Okay, you've been on the podcast before, so you know I never let anyone leave without giving a book recommendation. So, doesn't have to be business, but it could be. What's a great book you've read recently?
Oh my goodness. I'm currently reading another World War II book. I know. You all, Amanda knows how much I love World War II books, and it's wrecking me right now. It's called The Lucky Child. It's either The Lucky One or The Lucky Child. It's a true story of this boy who survived a concentration camp, and he went in with his parents. I'm not going to give it all away, but he did not tell his story until he was in his 50s or 60s.
Is it a memoir by Thomas?
I don't remember. I just remember the book cover. Like it's like a picture of him and his parents. It's a black and white photo. It's either The Lucky One, The Lucky Child.
Oh wait.
It's very, I just found it at my library a few weeks ago, and I decided, hey, because I take my boys to the library every Monday, and I saw it and I was like, I'm gonna check this out. I'm usually like, I normally read World War II books about females, but this is starring a male. And I'm like, wow, I'm really branching out. My husband makes fun of me. He's like, wow, you're really branching out, Dolly. But it's really good. It's like, it makes me so sad because it's a child. Like, I might start crying. It's just so, I love World War II books and I love books like that. So,
Man, I read some good ones recently. I'll have to send you the
yeah,
text of.
yeah,
You've probably read them at this point, but we'll connect on what the actual title of this and who it's by.
yeah.
Perfect. Dolly, thank you so much for joining me today. It
I
was
hope
such
it
an
was helpful. I know I'm really like, I just go all over the place. So I really hope it was helpful for
There's
your
so
audience.
much to cover when it comes to launches,
Yeah.
especially in 2024, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you. For anyone who has follow-up questions for Dolly, pop them in the comments. We will get back to you. And I'm sure there will be plenty of questions to ask from this because we covered so much. So if you
Yeah.
want to see more in depth about any of facets of this, let us know in the comments.
Yeah,
Thanks,
definitely.
Dolly.
Bye.